Welcome to the My Friend the Friar podcast, and thanks for listening. If you like My Friend the Friar and want to support us, please consider subscribing or following us if you haven't already done so. And if you found us on YouTube, then don't forget to click the notification bell when you subscribe so you'll be notified of new episodes when they release. Thanks again, and God bless. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me and my friend the Friar, Father Stephen Sanchez, a discalced Carmelite priest. Good evening, Father. Good night, Father.
Good evening.
Oh my goodness.
It's taking a while to set up.
Oh, technology. I work in technology. This should not be that hard. Okay. We're not at the castle. We're not at my house. We're at
another castle.
We're at another castle. We're at
Mount Carmel Center.
Mount Carmel Center. I'm going to move my mic so I can relax for a second. All right. And we're just chatting tonight.
Yes, we are.
Before we chat, though, I have two user questions. That's how you know I work in technology, because the end users have questions. I have two listener questions.
Okay.
First of all, first question is, how am I supposed to know who the angel of the Lord is if I don't listen to the episode where you explain who the angel of the Lord is? Do you have any answers to that?
Listen to the episode, buddy.
Oh my goodness. The second question, you can probably guess who this one comes from too before I left the house. Can a pope be this is technical language. Can a pope be depoped?
No. A pope can abdicate?
Yeah.
He can abdicate. The only way a pope would be removed from office if the council was not a legitimate council to elect, right? For example, when we had two popes and three popes.
I was just thinking about that, yeah.
Yeah, we had two popes, three popes. It was a matter of there were the councils, opposing councils, right? There's opposing councils and electing opposing popes. So then eventually there was three popes, and then eventually the others, two of them abdicated. They recognized and realized that they were not elected legitimately. There was more politics involved than anything else.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the papacy was preserved from that. But yeah, it's.
Because could you be excommunicated while you're in office?
You could be.
So that would be like depoping.
You would be you could be excommunicated. You would have to excommunicate if you did something that would carry an automatic excommunication. Then you could have basically excommunicate yourself. That way. It's de facto, right? For example, during the great schism between the East and the West. So the Pope excommunicated the Archbishop or the Orthodox leader, and the Orthodox leader excommunicated the Pope, and so they excommunicated each other. But basically, it's like,
yeah,
it's pointless at that point. There were separated churches at that point.
What do they call them? Patriarchs.
The patriarch.
Yeah. Can a bishop excommunicate someone?
Yes.
Can a bishop excommunicate another bishop?
They would have to go through the College of Bishops. Everybody
to go through the Synod. Get together.
Yeah, it'd have to be the Synod of Bishops, for example. During the early heresies, some of the bishops that were part of the Arian heresy were excommunicated by a synod. There was a Synod of Bishops got together, and they had the whole theological discussion, and the bishops that refused to recant the heresy were excommunicated. They were deposed. They were removed from office. Right?
Yeah. Deposed, not depoped.
Yeah, deposed, not depoped.
Yeah. Is a taco a sandwich?
It's a folded sandwich. Yes.
You ever like peanut butter and jelly and you only have one piece of bread, so you just fold it in half and it's a taco sandwich?
Taco sandwich. That's what it is. It's a peanut butter taco.
Peanut butter taco. I did that with pancakes. The best taco peanut butter sandwich taco thing ever.
No. Warm corn tortillas with peanut butter.
Really?
Oh, baby.
I'll have to try it. I like warm peanut butter because it melts.
Yes.
It's kind of gooey. Yeah. It turns into like a sauce.
Yeah.
It's so good. Peanut butter and ham go well. Yeah. That's a hurricane story growing up. We had to empty the fridge, and then like we ended up not leaving, so we had nothing left but peanut butter and ham. And so I made a sandwich. It was good. Microwaved it. It was good. So random.
Yeah.
So we've been doing this for a while now. We missed our anniversary. We missed it. I forgot. I'm sorry. I forgot your anniversary.
Well, I forgot yours too. So
yeah. So. Because that would have been the beginning of August.
Was it August that we began?
Yeah. Because we worked on it for so long before we released anything.
That's true.
And so then August is when we released something. I can't remember the date now, but I think it was the beginning of August. So we've been doing this like a year and a month. Year and 2 months because we're in October.
You're right.
Holy cow. What's your favorite episode?
Ooh. I think for me, episodes, I nerded out on the martyrs. I really enjoyed diving into the history of it, everything that was involved with that. And again, even our episodes didn't cover everything that we could have. But
yeah.
I really enjoyed that. I really to dive deep into that. In fact, I was watching on Netflix. I was watching a special on the samurai that fight for Japan, and who comes up? Hideyoshi, the famous Hideyoshi. Like, oh, okay. Of course, nothing to do with the church or the persecution of the Catholics or the Christians or anything, but
yeah,
just basically the war for unification of Japan, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah.
So. I don't know. I think it's those. I like those. And some of I think probably some of the more the deeper dives into parts of the catechism that we did, or some of the questions, the sacraments. I think all of it is really. I enjoy all of it because I think it just helps me to remember. Recall the richness of the faith and how everything is so intertwined with everything else and how it's all tied together and how everything builds on everything else. And so, yeah, I think, again, the martyr episode, I think it's probably the least downloaded or the least listened to.
That's funny. I'm going to look it up while we're sitting here.
So that's probably the least listened to, but I think I really enjoyed it. I was like, wow, I wish I could do more in this. I don't know. I just think it's, just thinking about the fact somebody would have the courage to die for the faith is just, to me, just kind of makes me pause, right? Like, wow. Would I have the courage, the grace, and the strength to do that?
Yeah, because there's some people, and it's funny that you talk about that because in our last episode we were saying how, I guess we had recorded it a while back too, and then we finally released it. And we recorded it right around the time when the Catechism in Years started, and it is Schmitz with
Schmitz
a sound at the end. Yeah. Because I was listening to the episode and I was like, oh man, what is it? So I went and looked it up, and so did Schmitz. But anyway, they had just kind of done the introduction to the third pillar right before we recorded that, and so now, funny enough, they're in the 10 Commandments. And he's doing a really good job.
Is he?
He's really doing a good job. And I think the thing that makes it so good is, like, say what you want about Father Mike, but he loves the Lord, and he loves his word, he loves his law and everything. And so you can just tell it when he's talking about it. And I think it's a whole lot easier to accept things from somebody when they're really excited.
Right, when they're convicted.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so he's doing a really good job so far. And we're still just on the first commandment. But
so he's doing more than just reading it. He's commenting on it?
yeah, so he'll like read
Okay.
it and then it's like kind of break it down.
Okay, good.
Right.
I was afraid they were just going to just like read through. I'm like, oh, please don't do that.
Yeah.
Please don't do that.
So Father Mike, wherever you are, you're doing good. Keep it up, buddy. Gosh, what were you? Oh, the catechism stuff. That's what made me think about it. But yeah, so our most popular episode is still our pilot episode about the Sacred Triduum.
Okay.
Yeah, like by far the most popular. Now I want to see where we're at with the
martyrs.
Yeah, scrolling because we got a lot of episodes scrolling. I'll say this much. They're not the last place. Okay. Not the last place, but the most popular one for the martyrs was the England and Wales.
Oh, yeah.
Because everybody loves English history. It's like knights and stuff.
Yeah, it is interesting part of history. The 1500s.
Yeah.
Are just
so much going on.
Fascinating all over the world.
Yeah.
Because that's during the time.
Yeah, Portugal and all that was going on in Japan too. Yeah.
Yes.
Man, that would have been a rough time to live. Oh, anyway, so the with the martyrs, he commented in either today's episode or the day before, I can't remember, but it was the whatever part of the Bible where they're asking that old man to like eat the meat, and he's like, "No, I won't eat the meat if it's I don't remember if it was pork, if it was something like offered to a
from the Maccabees.
Yeah, and so they're like, okay, just eat any meat you want, like. It doesn't have to be. Yeah, just pretend. He's like, I won't even pretend. And so, yeah, you know how that works out.
Yes. He gets killed.
So some people with the martyrs, like, they're unwavering. They're like, no, I won't even fake it. Right.
Which is your favorite episode?
I have
the alien episode.
Dun, dun, dun. I love the story of you guys practicing the baptismal rite.
Oh, the sacrament. Yeah, that was the sacrament baptism. The sacraments.
Yeah. It's so good. Yeah. I think really like, other than the just the great little stories. I don't know if I have a favorite, but there are things that happen that I don't know. They're just endearing to me to go back and listen to. Like somehow we always end up talking about movies, and
movies and books.
Yeah, just like in this one movie, it's like, and it's always a weird movie too. It's like Aliens or something like something sci-fi or what's it called, Babylon 5 or whatever, which I'm still watching, by the way.
You are?
Yeah, I'm in season 2. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Isn't it good?
Yeah, it's pretty good
for its time. It's good.
Yeah, it's like it's
aged.
Yeah, the special effects are like,
yeah,
for anyone who understands what this means, it's like PlayStation 1 graphics. Like it's old, it's like 90s old stuff.
Yeah, it's very old, but it's a good story. It's a great story.
Yeah, they do a good job of keeping things. You're aware that things are happening outside of the space station, that there's moving pieces.
Yes.
But you're never told what they all are. You're just aware that certain things are
going to lead to.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, this is... So it makes you want to watch the next one because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So things like that. And then I've really enjoyed the episodes where we are talking about some document. Some like church document or Vatican document or something. Because like I don't know. I consider myself a pretty average. Like I'm a normal Catholic, right? My kids don't go to Catholic school. I don't homeschool them. They eat school lunch at the public school kind of thing, right? Or she does. I don't know. I've got kids everywhere now.
Yeah.
But like I would have never heard of this stuff.
Like on the lay vocation that we did, the one on the lay vocation.
Yeah, and just anytime, and I can never say like any of their names because they're in Latin, like that. Or no, there's like now just trying to think of the names because they're in Latin, I can't even recall them. But a lot of the Vatican II documents, right?
Lumen Gentium,
There you
Gaudium
go.
et Spes.
There you go. There you go. Thank you.
Sacrosanctum Concilium.
Yeah. So it makes me want to go back and read them. And what's funny is whenever you're talking about these documents in the episodes, I go, oh man, this is so beautiful. I want to go read it. And then I never do, right? Because I'm a normal Catholic and I got things going on. So
Life.
Yeah.
It's called life.
But I think that's just those things aggregated together, right, throughout all the episodes. I think you're right. It is a tapestry, and it's all somehow blended together.
Right.
And something about that I find very intellectually stimulating.
Right.
So,
okay. If you could do something different, if you could change something in the podcast, what would you change?
I would probably change. I don't know. That's a really good question. I think I would probably change. I'd have to say at this point, the thing is still the length.
Right.
Maybe I think, or I don't know. Maybe we need to record new intros for like season 3 or something like that for next year.
Right.
I don't know. Or season. Yeah, this is season 2.
We're in season 2.
Yeah. Just to change it up. But I think maybe the length. Every now and then we have some episodes where I'm like, oh man, that was like 10 minutes too long. And then sometimes it's just so good and I'm listening to it and I just kind of get lost in it. I'm like, oh, the episode's over. And then sometimes, like the other day, we did a real short one. I thought that was good. So maybe something with that. I don't know.
Yeah, that is a hard thing to come to, right? In terms of what is the right balance, right?
Yeah.
Is it somebody that's listening on the way to work and so they only want 20 minutes or 30 minutes, or somebody that really wants to spend some time on a walk, listening and thinking and stuff? So.
And I think that's probably what affects me too, because depending on when I listen to it,
right,
is kind of how much time I have. And so if it's always interrupted because I'm like getting in the car and out of the car and in the car, out of the car. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's so much, there's just so much out there that it's like, I'm curious. Let me ask you this. If we could double down on anything, like just whatever topic, or whatever, let's say whatever topic. What would you double down on the martyrs, or is there something that you think in your experience with spiritual direction or giving retreats and things that people nowadays maybe really need to hear or have some kind of teaching or comfort in, like a specific topic?
That's interesting. I think probably there's a need for an awareness of how, not just in the faith but the world, how everything is interconnected and how everything affects everything else. For example, I was just talking to somebody recently about the world as we are experiencing it now. There is the fact that there is so little Christian values left in the West, right? And I was talking to this person. I said, like, well, something that I've mentioned before. This is an experiment, a social experiment, to have a country that doesn't have an official religion, but that doesn't necessarily mean that a religion that is imposed, right? Just like it's not associated to any religion, even though it was based on some sort of Christian morals, in God we trust, and kind of that, and the fact that throughout the years, we've basically moved away from all of that. We've moved away from, due to the freedom that has been overemphasized. So we can't pray, we can't salute the flag, we can't do any of those things because it hurts somebody or something like. Okay. And basically what we've done is we have dug ourselves a deep hole as a society and just can't get out of it. And for us as a believing community within a larger community that no longer has any Christian structures or moral structures, it makes it very difficult for us as believers, as disciples, to understand the faith and to teach the faith, because the basic fundamental structure is no longer there. So basically it's a matter of catechizing from ground zero. It's like, what does it mean to be a Christian? What does it mean to believe in Jesus Christ? For us as Catholics, what does that mean, right? And so what does it mean to have a Catholic culture? And to have a Catholic culture doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be folkloric or exaggerated or anything like that. No, is there a fundamental understanding of the human person according to a Catholic view? Going back to Irenaeus and Augustine and all those things that we talked about before, interesting philosophies and approaches to the understanding of who the human person is meant to be according to the example set by Jesus Christ, right? And that is what we're supposed to be working towards. And so I think the doubling down would be really just some of those fundamentals that the catechism is built upon, but some real just fundamental communal values of what does it mean to belong to a community of belief, right? And that's, I think, is what needs to be emphasized. And I think part of the fear in the U.S., in the West, in believing cultures, for example, Catholicism or just basic Christianity, some of the fear is they're so afraid of the world changing around them that they're becoming rigid and strict and reactionary, and that's not faith.
Yeah.
That is not faith, right? That is fear, and it's acting out of fear. It's like, if I really truly believe and live my life understanding that there is a God who is my Father, who loves me and cares for my well-being. Yes, the world is broken. It's not his fault. But to understand that, and to understand also that I have been invited into the plan to transform the world as well. I mean, I think there's something there that needs to be re-examined, re-educated. And I think, as I've mentioned before in some of the other episodes, sometimes the caricature of what it is to be a Christian gets in the way. And sometimes the church is at fault too. And I don't mean the church as a whole, but people that represent the church at times are at fault. For example, when some of the bishops came out, Catholic morality and stuff like that came out protesting and arguing. I think I've mentioned this before. We might have mentioned this before. Protesting the last temptation of Christ. Okay, so obviously you're protesting out of ignorance because you don't understand that it's based on a novel. And no, that's not what the author is saying. The author is saying is not that Jesus was sleeping with Mary Magdalene. The author was saying that the temptation of Christ was, what if I had done something different? And that was the last temptation on the cross was, this is what the devil had presented to him. Like, what if you'd done something different? Maybe you wouldn't be on the cross right now.
Yeah.
And so the whole story, the novel, and part of the movie too, is that Jesus is being tempted with all this stuff. What if I had, gotten married? What if I had done that? And then at the very end, he rejects the temptation and accepts
his Father's will.
His Father's will, and then you're back at the cross, and he's dying on the cross. Like, basically, that was his last thought. But what upset me about it was, like, you have people in miters protesting. Like, please educate yourself. If you're going to criticize something like that, investigate, educate, and give a balanced critique of that.
Yeah,
which is fine.
I wonder if that shows a problem. I wonder if that illustrates a problem. Are we too distracted? Like, you would think that bishops would have something more important to go and focus their energies on.
I think part of it too is this. I think part of it too is there is a lot of banner waving and sloganism, and I think there's pressure that's put on bishops too. You have to do this, and of course, the bishops are human. They're not infallible. Only the Pope is when he speaks infallibly, which is rare. But
Yep.
I think some of it is because bishops are human. Bishops can get caught up in their own piety and their own distraction and their own distorted view of what the faith is about, because every bishop is from their time and their culture.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not, they're not inserted into the church. They come from a culture and a time. And so if I come from a culture that is basically besieged Catholicism, then my Catholicism is going to be very, very, very different. It's going to be very militant and very, or whatever. It's going to be reactionary, right? And so again, that's part of the whole thing too. That there's such a huge difference in the different manners of viewing the church and understanding the church, and that's why it's so important that leadership understand that I have a cultural bias. I have a bias because I understand the church according to the way that I understand it. I need to study. I need to pray. I need to investigate and educate myself. I need to educate my own understanding of Catholicism to have a greater understanding of the universal view, right?
Yeah.
Of the history of the church, and speak from that instead of being reactionary. I think for me, that the biggest thing that makes me sigh deeply is when you have the church being reactionary instead of being forward-thinking and prophetic, and instead of being reactionary to do something positively, do something that is again prophetic. Yeah, which is what it's supposed to be.
I think there are a lot of different, I don't know if culture is the right word, groups that are even non-Catholic, non-Christian groups who recognize that the direction the church goes is like I feel like there's even a saying I've heard somewhere. It's like, so goes the church. Like, so wherever it's headed is like where the world will follow. And when it starts following instead of leading, right? That instead of being prophetic and telling the truth, speaking the truth,
correct,
no matter the situation.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's when things get a little hairy. And yeah, you're right. Like a bishop from Central Africa is going to have a very different list of things that he's complaining and involved about, involved with than somebody from the United States.
Correct.
It's going to be completely different.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think that too kind of makes me think about the spiritual nature of things that we have kind of been speaking about lately. That understanding, and you said that you play a part in the story of the salvation of the world as an individual, right? So you have to know, you have to be aware and acknowledge and accept and participate in this something bigger than just the world. It's not just the world, it's the world right? It's the spiritual thing. And you can't get hyper focused on the end, or you turn into one of those heresies from the first couple centuries too, where like the spiritual things are good and worldly things are bad.
And I have to say that a lot of it is, it's not malicious. It is a desire for good. It's just not catechized or educated, right? And so like, it's not like, you shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. And like, okay. Yeah. So let's step back from this and let's educate the question, and let's see if you want to ask the same question the same way.
Yeah. And it's like you were saying the other day, whenever it was, like somebody, like there's a piece about somebody who has that like firm understanding and acceptance of who they are and their relationship with God, so they can be, in prison and they're at peace. They can be poor, they're in peace. They can be rich and they're in peace, right? Like, so there's something there. And I think a lot of people, because doom and gloom sells, right?
Of course.
And so that's...
gets attention.
Yeah, that's very exciting and everything. But if you think about it, us moving into a post-Christian world is no different than the beginning of the church.
Exactly.
It's just a pre-Christian world. And
Yeah.
so there's nothing going on right now that wasn't going on 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And so it's almost exciting because instead of worrying about all the things that are going wrong or what Pope or Bishop or whoever didn't do something that they should have done and, hindsight 2020 kind of thing, like, how about being excited for what God is doing right now?
Yeah.
With all of us broken people.
Yeah.
We got broken leaders, we got broken podcasters, we got everything is broken.
Yes.
But God is moving. Yeah. And I think that's really exciting. I don't know. I agree.
And I think part of it, I think going back to the podcast, a lot of people have been pushing us to be more commercialized and to try to get, more multiple platforms and stuff like. It's not about popularity. It's not about, it's a matter of like, okay, we're going to do what we're going to do, and hopefully God's going to do with it what he wants to do with it. And hopefully they find it interesting enough, the Catholic faith interesting enough that they want to listen and be open to exploring the faith and to appreciate the richness, the complexity, the largeness of it, and the many different hues and colors and tints of the faith that makes it such a beautiful, beautiful bride of Christ, and that it's not about customs that people that have confused customs with tradition, with big T tradition, right? And fighting over stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the approach that everyone, not just you and I, and with this podcast, but everyone should take is if you just help one person in your life get to know Jesus, that's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough. So if we've been downloaded in 32 countries now. If just one person is better informed or, has some kind of fuel to their journey, then that's good. Then we did our job.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. They're willing to consider something.
Yeah. And I think that I like that, to consider something. It's very Carmelite of you to say. But yeah, I think it's also interesting too, because as Christians we're called to community, and this is the podcast is kind of a venture into a broader community of people that we'll never see from like Nigeria, right? Is I think our latest country, which is great because it's this we are all one family kind of community. But I think and maybe this is something that in this post-Christian society, how many people are longing for a sense of community, and maybe that's what the church brought into the world. I mean, everyone had their little village and their little clan or empire, depending on where you live. But I wonder what it was that. Well, I know obviously the answer is Jesus is what they brought into the, they shared, but it's like, how did they bring that to the world around it? And like, how did it catch fire, and really spread?
I think it is community and familiarity, and familiarity, by that I mean the familiarity of family, right? That's what I mean. I was reading about the church in Korea, what was it? Andrew Kim, that we celebrated not too long ago. And I did, being the geek that I am, I did a little dive into Korea. And so I was like, oh, that was interesting. So that, in Korea, there was mostly Confucianism and Buddhism. And in Confucianism, there's a hierarchy, there's a rigid kind of, I don't want to say a caste system, but there's a rigid hierarchy. And so some of the academics, some of the high society educated people in Korea got a hold of some Catholic documents that came from China. They were able to read Chinese, and they were reading the Chinese that some Jesuits had written for the Chinese mission. It sort of bled into Korea, and then these high-ranking, educated academicians. It's too late.
I like that word. I'm gonna make a T-shirt that says academicians.
Academicians. It's late. Academicians. Okay, that's my
Academics.
word. I own it.
Yeah, put the little trademark stamp.
There you go. And they had to translate it into a language that the people in Korea could read. And so all of a sudden what happened was they were very attracted to it because their translation, there's no such thing as disciple, right? Their translation was friends of the God of heaven.
Oh.
And the idea of friends is what attracted them to the faith, because we're all equal.
Yeah.
Which absolutely the Korean
culture,
kingdoms, right, empires, were totally against it. Like, no. There is no such thing as equality. We have to keep the hierarchy. And so when priests came in to Korea, people walked 500 miles from Korea into China to go ask the Chinese Catholics to send them priests.
Wow.
And by the time priests actually came into Korea, there was like 30,000 Catholics
before they even got there. Wow.
Waiting for priests, because you had catechists, you had these people that were teaching the faith, and they all believed.
Yeah. And
you had lay baptism. You had baptism.
I was going to say, would these people happen to be the laity?
Yeah.
That lay vocation,
man,
it's powerful.
Yeah. And I was like, whoa. And so they finally, so again, I did the deep dive. And so I'm going like, it's about community. It's about family. Yeah. And so I think one of the things that is lacking in the West that most people are hungry for, whether they know it or not, is community. But most people don't know how to live in community. They don't know what the collaboration and the give and take and all that stuff is very difficult for them, because
and families are messed up now. Yeah.
Yeah. Because again, anybody that's interested, there was a book that was written about 10, 20 years ago on narcissism in the United States, written by 2 PhDs. And basically that's what's killing us in the West is the narcissism.
Look at me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to kill us. So, we need to, those of us that are believers, we need to stay in the church and keep the church up, because the next collapse of the civilization is going to it's going to be dependent on us to preserve the civilization, just like it happened before. In the Dark Ages.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm thinking about it now, all the plagues, all the everythings that go through and wipe out. The church is what was there to...
The monasteries preserved the civilization.
Yeah. This...
Here we go.
Mount Carmel Center might be a happening place here in 100 years.
The center of the future civilization
in
North Texas. If there is a Texas. So.
Gosh. Yeah, it turns into Hunger Games.
Yeah.
This would be District, I don't know, 11. I don't know how many districts. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I read those books. Yeah. That's so cool.
The spies.
It makes me think. One of my buddies, my other friend Steven, lives down in Austin. Yeah, my other Steven. He and I. It was one of the. I admittedly, I did not respond well in this conversation. But he was talking about Dune and how it's like the Catholic. They call it Catholic something in Dune. It's like the church, but it means like it's now universal, like universe-wide kind of thing. But it's like a
lowercase c.
Yeah, but it's like this. All different religions are all like merged together at some point, And I'm just like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Like, the author obviously
doesn't understand
know.
the Catholic Church.
Yeah. And he got so frustrated because he was just trying to, like, it's cool because it says Catholic and you're Catholic. And sorry, Steven.
It's the wrong Catholic, Steven.
Yeah. It was funny. Oh, yeah. So what's next for us? We got a lot of traveling. Or you've got a lot of traveling. Got a lot of traveling. Yeah, I still think a Beatitudes series might be nice to do.
Yeah.
But maybe see if we can figure out how to chunk it into either smaller things or.
There's still a lot of Vatican documents that we can go through too.
I dig those. I dig those documents, man. And maybe it's the history nerd in me too, because I just got a book by Jimmy Akin. It's like the Church Fathers Know Best or something like that, and it's
that sounds familiar.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to start reading it yet, but it's a decent sized book.
Jimmy Akin, is he a country western singer?
Jimmy Akin?
I'm kidding.
No, but he has a luxurious red beard.
Does he?
I think, yeah. And I'm qualified.
He's one of those Catholics, right?
Yeah, I'm qualified to say it's luxurious too. Even if it's only scraggly, I can still say it's luxurious, and it makes it so.
Okay. In your world. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so we got stuff coming up. But we gotta get through the travels. That's gonna be a lot of fun. And then I don't know. We'll see what happens next year. And the rest of this year. I guess we got a lot of year left.
There's a lot left this year.
I'm just already tired because the school year started. So, well, cool. Well, this was fun.
You like all the books?
I keep banging the microphone stand. I do. Kind of like I see a whole bunch because we're recording in the. Is this the library?
Yeah, it's one of
Mount
the
Carmel?
libraries in this monastery.
Yeah, because I was saying I thought you guys had a different one. So
we do. We have
okay.
several libraries.
But yeah, I see. Strangely enough, I see a lot of Jesuit books on these shelves. I don't know what's going on around here. See, there's one right over there, and a Franciscan. There's a Jesuit and a Franciscan book.
We're Catholic. we take a look at the world.
Yeah.
You have the Carmelite stuff. You have scripture stuff. You have theology. You have dogma. You have commentaries. You have sacraments. You've got it's.
And it looks like you ran out of bookshelves.
Well, yes, I need to call. I need to start taking stuff out and giving them away.
Well, Betty just she just ordered. I don't think it's in yet. St. John of the Cross.
Collected works. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite saint?
A favorite saint?
Yeah.
Other than Jesus?
Yeah. Does he count? I mean, he's kind of God.
He is the
but
Holy One. Come on. He is holiness itself. Hello?
Yeah. But it's kind of like saying, like, Saint Michael. Like, I mean, he's
an angel.
He's just there. He's there. He wins by default.
Right. Yes. The
So
spiritual
Jesus wins by default.
Right. So from the human church.
Yeah.
Of course, there's my patron Saint Stephen, who he didn't write anything, but just his life and his death has been very exemplary to me and a very convicting life for me. Saint Gabriel of Our Lady of Sorrows, who was a Passionist, he died as a novice, as a young man. His whole story was very attractive to me. But for me, I think it's Teresa and John. Once I got into Teresa of Jesus, Teresa of Avila, and John of the Cross, it's all there. It's all there. It's just.
Yeah. Well, I won't say if I have a favorite saint because I have a hard time picking any kind of favorites. But I will say this one time when my two nephews were little. I can't remember exactly how old, but I'm talking like elementary school age. They were driving down from Oklahoma to come visit, and my sister was like cracking up when she was telling me about this. They're in the back seat of the minivan or whatever, and they're having this debate over who would win in a fight, Jesus or the Incredible Hulk. And because they're like, the Hulk is so strong, and but it's Jesus, like you can't beat him. And so when I said that he wins by default, that's kind of what popped in my head. Anyway, yeah, Jesus versus the Hulk.
Yeah.
Make a good comic. Well, great. Well, I think we're done here this evening.
I think so.
It's time for snacks in bed.
Yes, it's time for a nice quiet time before I turn in. Put on my Marvel Avengers pajamas.
The Incredible Hulk. Oh, goodness. Well, all right. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Everyone who's listening, please share the podcast. That is the best thing that you could do for us. Pray for us.
Yes. Amen.
And share the podcast with
Yes.
somebody you think might enjoy it.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless. Bye, everybody.
Bye.